Today, we're dealing with the lesser-known narratives of Black people in the Iberian Peninsula. My guest is Kwame Ondo of Afro Iberían Tours. He was born in Equatorial Guinea, but moved to Spain at a young age and has also lived for many years in the UK, so he does tours in both Spanish and English. He's a trailblazer, and his tours have generated a huge amount of interest in big publications like El País or The Guardian. And if you don't know already, you're listening to the Making of Madrid podcast. I'm your host, Felicity Hughes, a journalist and tour guide. You can find out much more about me from my website, themakingofmadrid.com, where I urge you to subscribe to my newsletter. But today is about Kwame, who I was delighted to hear lives just down the road from me in Usera. So after we had some technical difficulties, we simply repaired to a local bar to have a chat. And you'll hear a little bit of background chatter in the recording, but it's really come through pretty well, thanks to my trusty microphones. It's not often that I get to interview in person, so this was a delight to do, especially as it's covering a side of Madrid's history I know very little about. So without further ado, let's listen to the interview. Hello, Kwame.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to the Making of Madrid podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to have you here today in beautiful Usera.
Okay.
In a café de toda la vida.
Okay.
People listening might hear some background noise.
Okay, that's fine.
So let's kick off by me asking you, what brought you to Madrid?
What brought me to Madrid? It was COVID brought me to Madrid. I was in Barcelona, was working as a tour guide in Barcelona for different companies. And obviously, all of a sudden in 2021, everything stopped. And I was getting work as an actor here in Madrid. And I decided to move to Madrid because Madrid was a bit more open, a bit more flexible with all the restrictions during COVID.
Can you tell me a little bit about the tour that you started up in Madrid?
Well, the tour basically is a recopilation of all of the stories that we have never been told at school. The tour started because working as a tour guide in Barcelona, I realized that for some of the Black travelers, mostly from the United States, they were not getting the full picture. And I could sense that there was something missing. They were enjoying the experience and the tourism in Barcelona, but I could sense that something was not fully complete. So I decided to start, putting all of these stories because I have been involved for many years in some Black activist groups in the UK, in Barcelona, and also here in Madrid with the Pan-African movement and stuff like that. So I decided to put the two and two together. Mm-hmm. I had a bit of experience as a tour guide and also my experience also in Black activist groups to put the whole tour together.
And what's been the reaction from your clients?
The reaction has been very positive because people, or most of the people that come to the tour, don't have a clue, don't have an idea of what, these kind of stories here in Spain. So for a lot of people, it's very surprising because they have never, some of them might have a little bit of idea, but for most people, they don't know, about the Black contributions and the Black history and colonization and slavery being present in Spain. For many, many centuries.
And your clients aren't only Black Americans,
no.
You have Spanish people as well?
Yeah, I have Spanish people. I mean, my clients are from all sorts of ethnic background. The people that really keep the project going is people from the United States, okay? Most of them are Afro-Americans. But also I have different organizations and institutions, schools, universities, NGOs, I don't know, anthropology groups. I have all of these groups of people, coming into the tour because they want to know and they want to learn about that history in Spain. Also, obviously, I have people from France, England, and in the last few months, there's been a lot of Spanish coming into the tour. So that's a really good sign.
Because you actually grew up in Spain.
Yeah, I grew up in Spain. My mom brought me to Spain, me and my brothers and sisters, when I was 8. And I grew up in the south, in Andalusia. I lived there for 8 years. And then I moved to Galicia. And from Galicia, I moved to the UK, where I spent 17 years.
Do you have an Andalusian accent?
No, not anymore.
It's really hard for me to understand that accent. I was just watching a TV show and I was struggling.
Yeah, but, I think if I spend a bit of time with some of my friends, stuff like that, it'll come easy.
Okay. What challenges did you face when you were researching your tour?
In terms of the challenges, it was more about worrying about if this was going to work. Because I didn't have any sort of, notion that a tool like this, I knew it was going to attract some people, but you don't know if the tool is really going to, be fully functional and, but that was really my biggest challenge, because in terms of putting the work together, there is a lot of work out there. Black historians, Spanish historians, the internet, activist groups, they all have a lot of information. You just have to go to the right places to get that information.
Yeah.
And obviously, every now and then, some article, you have to visit museums, you have to go to talks, university, and places like that. But, it's not a lot of it, but there is enough to put a whole story together.
So getting into the history itself, I don't know a lot at all. I'm completely ignorant, I would say. If we talk about sub-Saharans arriving in the Iberian Peninsula, when does that history begin?
Well, it's a very way before Christopher Columbus, because we have to learn that Spain was the fourth largest European empire: Britain, France, Portugal, and Spain. But Spain is also the closest one to Africa. From specific points in the south of Spain, we see Africa. We see Africa from Gibraltar, from La Línea. It's just, you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that connection has always been there.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it's really unbelievable to think that people prefer to believe that Christopher Columbus made it first to America than Africans to Europe, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay. So that connection has always been there. I think some people from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Ethiopia, they were coming to Europe to negotiate and for commerce and for stuff like that way before Christopher Columbus. So a lot of those Africans, they were already here. Okay, so that's the story. I don't know how far back that goes.
Yeah,
but it's so close that it's a way of infantilizing people to make them believe that there was not historical connection before Christopher Columbus.
Exactly. So are we talking about the time of the Phoenicians, when there was a lot of trade going around the Mediterranean?
I don't know exactly about the Phoenicians, but I want to think, and obviously there is a very good documentary, We Were Here, I think is the name of that documentary, that talks about all these kind of people, of Africans, that were coming into Europe to negotiate and to trade with people from people from the Vatican and France and Italy and, different places. So, and we also have knowledge, I also have knowledge that the Chinese were also trading with people in South Africa, with different tribes in South Africa. So, that story depends on who tells the story. They're going to have their own connections with the African continent. So it's not only one simple story of white Europeans, telling everything, okay? All of these different groups, the Moors and the North Africans, the Chinese, all of these groups, they had their own commercial, let's say, situation with the African continent way before Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, and let's talk about Al-Andalus then. There was a lot of people from North African Berber tribes coming in. Would there have been people from further south coming to?
Yeah. I mean, the Moors from North Africa, obviously, they are the ones that stayed the longer in Europe. I think about 7-8 centuries. But also there was people from sub-Saharan Africa coming and to trade and to negotiate terms, of commerce mainly, and new routes of trading. and all of those people, we don't have a lot of knowledge about those guys, but you might be able to find it in some documents and some documentaries and some other places, but there is not a lot of information.
If we move forward to when Madrid became the capital, effectively, of Spain in 16th century,
16th century, yeah.
in 1561, would you have seen many Black people out on the streets of Madrid?
I mean, it is estimated that in the 18th century in Madrid, there was a population of about 200,000 people. Out of all 200,000 people, it is estimated that 6,000 of them were slave people. Okay, so it's a big number. But the exact number of Black Africans in Madrid, I mean, there are different writers, some of the most important and famous writers in Spanish history. They were writing. We find entire passages in their books where they are describing the presence of Black people in Madrid, and not only in Madrid, in the rest of Spain, okay? Especially in the south, where in Seville and Cádiz were known as the chessboard cities because of the amount of Black people there was on those places, okay? So most of the Blacks that used to be in Spain at that time, they were in the south of Spain. Right. But also in Madrid, we have stories where we find different people, doing works like mostly in construction. In Madrid, for instance, most of these Black slaves, they used to work in domestic work. We have painters, very famous painters like Goya and Velázquez, that they were painting Black people. Okay, so we have writers, we have painters, we have different people in the society at that time describing about the presence of Black people in Madrid at that time.
There's a lot of Goya's work in the Prado. Is there a particular painting that you would advise people to go and see?
Well, there is one, or not a painting, it's more like a painter. I think they might have some work by Juan de Pareja. Juan de Pareja was the slave of Velázquez, and he was a painter in his own right. Mm-hmm. And he became very famous because he was the second or the first or second Black Spanish painter to have been exhibited at the Prado Museum, and the first Black Spanish painter to have been exhibited at the Metropolitan in New York. There's also another painting by Velázquez, which is called The Maid, which is a Black woman, is depicting a Black woman cleaning a house in the 16th, 17th century. Yeah. So there is also the painting of Goya of La Duquesa de Alba and the Black child of Maria de la Luz. So, I mean, there is still all of these different, things that we keep finding, in different places, but we just need to put the whole thing together and then to put the story together.
And what about Spain's history with the slave trade then?
I know that the first one to start the slave trade, or the African slave trade, because Africa has been obviously started with the Arab slave trade on the east, but also European slave trade was started in Europe by the Portuguese, and second to the Portuguese came the Spanish. And the Portuguese has been the people with more, let's say, number of enslaved people taken to America, and second to the Portuguese were the Spanish. So, okay. But obviously, because the conflict was for many centuries with the Muslim world, the slaves that they were bringing from North Africa, these people were known as los moros de presa, or the Moors of prey. And from the 17th century onwards, they started enslaving more people from sub-Saharan Africa. So obviously all of that, then came the British and the French, and that went for 2-3 centuries. So
how about the abolition of slavery then in Spain?
Madrid was the place, probably the most famous for the abolitionist society of Madrid. It is interesting because in the 1873, 83, the head of that abolitionist movement was the president of Spain himself, of the First Republica, and Emilio Castelar.
Ah, yes.
So at the head of that movement was Emilio Castelar. And obviously the thing was because slavery was abolished, but it kept being practiced illegally for decades after. So Emilio Castelar, the president of Spain, he decided to write a condemnation letter to all of these very wealthy families that were still profiting from slavery. And obviously that was a lot of trouble for the president, because the president, after reading that letter in public in Congress, all sorts of trouble started for the president of Spain. He had to flee the country and find protection in France, because here they wanted to kill, obviously, the families that were still profiting from it.
It was a very tumultuous time, I think, and presidents didn't last very long. But yeah, I've heard of him that he had was he famous for being a great orator, for being a good speaker?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So if people come to your tour, can you give us a little snippet, like a highlight of something they might see that they might find interesting? Just a teaser. You don't have to give any spoilers.
Okay. Well, basically, when the tour, what we do, we walk about an hour and 40 minutes, and we learn about the contributions of the Moors in the peninsula, Black historical figures, colonization, slavery. And we also learn a little bit about migration and also about symbolism, because one of the things that we do in the tour, we try to read out some of the symbols that we don't know what they mean, but they are connected with the slavery. So that's a very interesting part of it.
Okay. So anyone who's sold on going on Kwame's tour, how can you book a tour with you? How can people get in touch with you to book a tour?
Through the website. That is on the website contact. You have the email and you have the WhatsApp number. Yeah. So you can
if you just say the website, if people are listening, they can write
AfroIberica.com.
Okay, so check out AfroIberica.com. And we'll put a link in the show notes as well, so people can check that out. Good. How about modern Spain? So how has diversity changed over the years from, we're talking about when Castelar, made this push to completely ban slavery?
Mm-hmm. Diversity. Well, diversity now is forced because of the migration process. Slavery, for us, I am a Pan-Africanist, it's not an ending process. It's a transformation process. So it keeps being transformed. It's not over. Yeah. Colonization is still on, well alive. Okay? So what they do now, for instance, is, we're seeing examples now in the United States where they are kicking out migrants because, know, but also this happens here. In Europe with the EU migration laws, that they are stopping people from coming into Europe after stealing their resources in the African continent. So, so it's a transformation process. It's not an ending process. So they keep transforming this whole process into something else. So it's still well alive. So in terms of diversity, obviously, a lot of the migration process comes mostly from South America. Okay, we have lots of people from Venezuela, from Colombia, from Peru, from Bolivia. But the African population in Spain, I think, is about 1.5 million.
Yeah.
And most of those are from North Africa, from Morocco.
Okay. How about, what do you think of what's been happening lately with Pedro Sanchez? So he's decided that he's going to regularize a lot of the people who are at the moment here, let's say, illegally, but they need papers. And he's started that process of them being to...
the ideal situation for me, instead of, going through the process of legalizing people, for me, coming from a Pan-African background, would be that all of these activist groups in Spain, because all of this is also a business, in the sense that all of these charities and NGOs, they are profiting from Africa. It's a wage here. Okay. So for me, the ideal situation would be that all of these groups, they focus their attentions in their own government and to press their own government and their own policies. And obviously to stop all of these big markets, to stop stealing from the African continent.
Yeah.
And to stop putting the military bases on the African continent. And to stop, obviously, all of these...
Are you talking about the extraction of rare metals?
Of resources, yeah. So that is really what I stand on that, because obviously it's an ideal situation and it's good that people, can have their own peace by taking papers, getting papers, and obviously having a good, decent life.
Mhm.
But the ideal situation would be really for these governments to stop. We don't need the charity of Europe.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. Okay. So for me, that is what I stand on that.
Okay. And what do you think the challenges are for Black people living and visiting Madrid these days?
The challenges are to find a connection. Most of the challenge that people tell me is that they don't see a lot of Black people in Madrid. Okay. But it's not that there is no Black people. It's just that most of the Black people, they don't live in the city center.
Yeah.
Okay. Back in the 90s and 80s, you will see more Black people in the street and different neighborhoods. But obviously, gentrification has played its role. And lots of the Black people, they live for many, many decades now in places like Torrejón, Móstoles, Alcorcón, places like that. Okay. So most of what we see in the city center is like a small representation of Black people in Lavapiés, which doesn't have a very good name for itself. But most of the Black communities, they're not going to stay in the city center. It's very expensive, and it's just so most of the at least people from my country, Equatorial Guinea, they have been here for a very long time because Equatorial Guinea was a Spanish colony. And it was a Spanish colony for 200 years. So a lot of the.
So you have a big community here.
Madrid, Barcelona, Mallorca, Bilbao, places like that. You'll find communities from Guinea. In Madrid, in the city center, mostly from Senegal, Gambia, and places like that. So, yeah.
How about tourists visiting?
Tourists visiting.
Because you said you had a lot of Black Americans visiting. How's their experience of the country been?
I think the experience of the tour gives them is like they visit the city with new eyes. They see the city through new eyes. And obviously they needed that kind of connection, historical connection, emotional connection. And they feel that they are part of the experience and part of the contributions that Black people have made to Madrid or to Spain in general. Okay. So I think it's about inclusion, it's about diversity, and it's about obviously being part of the history that all of these powers, they have been trying to keep you away from.
Yes. Before we wrap up the interview, is there anything in particular you would like to add on the topic of Black history in Spain?
No, come and visit and you will learn, that's it, just come and visit and, I'll show you around and I'll explain you and I'll tell you, there's lots of different things. Obviously the tour, it used to go for almost 3 hours and a half, but obviously, I cut it short and now it has been split in two parts. So one is the old town of Madrid and the other one is the modern part from Madrid. And in both tours, we learn about different things, The second part of the tour, the modern part of Madrid, we talk more about things, issues concerning more the 20th century to this day, or 19th century to this day. And before that, it's like from the 19th century to the 9th century and things like that. So we do like a big, we cover a lot of ground.
Yes. It's a big topic, and we've only just touched the surface of it today, but hopefully that will give you a taster and make you want to book Kwame for one of his tours. And before we finish, I want you to tell me, what's your favorite place in Madrid and why?
My favorite place in Madrid is really where my friends are. Because I don't get to go out a lot. I mean, I enjoy being, going for tapas to La Latina, to Lavapiés. I think mostly probably it's Lavapiés because lots of my friends are now around there. I like to be at home. I like to be in Usera because I live in a small kind of a green area and small houses and it's really peaceful. There's not a lot of traffic. So I like that. I like where I am in Usera. So.
Can you recommend people a place for tapas? Maybe in La Latina or Lavapiés?
Yeah, La Latina and Lavapiés are good places for tapas.
A particular bar.
I don't know. I mean, there's lots of places.
He doesn't want to give away his soup.
No. No, I mean, there is really good Senegalese bar, which is the Dakar restaurant. It's really good. They treat you really well. And in the evenings, Saturdays evening, they play live music. There is also don't know. I think I forgot the names now. Los Caracoles in Cascorro.
Yeah.
It's a good place. I like to go there when my friends from Bristol visit. No, it's just,
No, that's good. We've got a
Yeah.
few recommendations
Yeah.
there. And what's your favorite Spanish word?
My favorite Spanish word. Never thought about that. I don't know. I think amigo. I think it's amigo is a good word. Yeah. I like being with my friends. So that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Goodbye.
No, thank you. Bye bye.